Hare Krishna. Hey Govinda. Well, I'm thinking about what this is a nice garland, by the way. Who made this? Yeah, it's a nice garland.
I thought the same when I opened it.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering what to say. And I'm thinking that I could tell some Prabhupada pastimes. I had the great good fortune of living in the LA Temple in, this is 1969, 1970. And Prabhupada was working on 2 books at the time. He was finishing the Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Hey, is this you? No, here.
The picture here.
Is that him?
Yeah.
Well, you turned out all right. I like you better like this. But and then Prabhupada would come to America in the summertime when it's so hot in India. Prabhupada would come to the West. And then when it got cold in America and in Europe, Prabhupada would go back to India. So we had this endless summer was his kind of program. So I moved into the temple in 1970, in June of 1970, but I'd been coming for quite some time. So I actually noted some of those down. So I thought that would be fun for you guys. Because there's that section in the Gita when Arjuna asks, how do you know a self-realized soul? How does he sit? How does he walk? And we can learn, anyone know what the root of the word acharya means? Anyone know the root of the word acharya? Achar. 10 points for you. And what does achar mean? It means activities, behavior, culture, activities. So I remember people used to say to me, it's an American saying, don't do as I do as I say. And I used to think, if it's such good advice, why don't you follow it? You're willing to give it to me. So what is the behavior? What is the activity Talk is cheap, as they say in America. I meet people all the time, and they say to me, well, I pray to God. Okay, I mean, that's good. You know, one of the first things I read in Prabhupada wrote in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, and he says, you know, and it's one of the Mahavakyas, it's one of the essential principles of Christian teaching that, it's called the Lord's Prayer. And in there it says, it's like the Chatusloki of the Bhagavatam, supposed to be, but it doesn't have that much substance. We're an in-house group, I can be honest with you. So he says, God give us this day our daily bread. And Prabhupada says, don't mind if I'm taking this off, all the hard work that went into it, but I have a very bad back. I was almost killed in a car accident. And so the weight, is this sweet or just water?
Just plain sparkling water.
Oh, very good. Thank you very much. So anyway, Prabhupada says that, okay, God give us this day our daily bread. So Prabhupada said, that's good. At least they recognize God as the source of their bread. They're going to the right source. But it's not really love of God. It's love of bread. Now, we've picked on the Christians, but those in the Hindu tradition, they say, what is it? Om Jaya Jagadish Hari. Give me a new car and a house by the sea. So they've got the same, it's just, you find it everywhere. If I'm Muslim, that I want the 7 virgins, or is it 7 or 14? I forget which one it is. Just to have one wife or one husband's enough work, actually, you think about it. Careful what you ask for, you may actually get it. So, so people say, well, I pray to God. Okay, so what? Who doesn't pray to God? What they say, there's no atheist in a foxhole. At the time of death, the man is falling off the roof. He's working on the roof. And he's sliding off the roof. He slips. He thinks, oh God, please save me. If you save me, I'll give you my entire life. I'll do anything. And just as he's about to go over the edge, his pants catch on a nail. And he thinks, boy, I was lucky. Forgets all about God. That's out of the picture. So, but when in distress, people pray to God. Voltaire, the famous French atheist, called for a priest at the time of death. So they said, hey, all your life you were an atheist, now you're calling for God? He said, well, it can't hurt. Hey, it might be true. I got to cover my bases here, So, okay, they pray to God. But, it didn't satisfy me when they said, okay, fine. You're recognizing the Supreme Lord and you're dependent. Okay, it's good, all right, but, is that the end of it? So I thought about it. And here's what I say now. When they say, oh, I pray to God, I say, great, fine. But what are you doing for God? That is love. I have an Uncle Chuck. And Uncle Chuck has passed away. He's my father's brother. And Uncle Chuck Uncle Chuck, you give an example of Uncle Chuck. It's a true story. Uncle Chuck, his company built the, when they had the Olympics here in LA and the Olympic torch, so his company designed that electric torch. It kept going out. That is supposed to be the eternal flame. There was some defect in the thing. So that's Uncle Chuck. So Uncle Chuck would always call my father to ask for something. loan for his reading. You know, he's got a new, bright idea or this or that, and my father can be a what do you call it, on the ground floor investor. And it got to the point that he would call, and my mother would say, "Hey, it's your brother on the phone," and my father said, "Just ask him how much he wants. Just let's cut to the chase, get it over with." So how did my father feel when he saw Uncle Chuck coming up the driveway, or he saw Uncle Chuck on the phone? How did he feel about it? I mean, you're a nice man. You got T-lock on. You got a bead bag. I'm sure you're a gentleman. But you would, if you had an Uncle Chuck, a brother Chuck, you wouldn't be too happy to see him. So think about it. All we do is ask God for things. Give me this, give me that. I need this, I want that. If only you gave me this, I'd be so happy. You know? How do you feel about that? You know that they don't really care about you. They want you to do something for them. So the beauty of bhakti, Prabhupada said, we're saying, God, give us this day our daily bread. So, but that's not really love of God, it's love of bread. But Mother Yasoda, what was Mother Yasoda thinking? We just finished the Kartik season. And she, the catalyst of the whole thing is when she puts Krishna down to go get the milk. It's boiling. So we're thinking, God, please feed me. But Mother Yasoda is thinking, I have to feed Krishna. She's not thinking about herself. She's thinking, Prabhupada said actually, Mother Yasoda was worried that Krishna was getting a bad reputation. He was famous for stealing and sneaking in other people's houses and stealing their butter and their yogurt. He was going to get a reputation as a juvenile delinquent. So she thought, if I get the best milk, and if you want the best milk, you got to have the best cows. If you want the best cows, you got to have the best grass. So he would get special grass. She would get special grass from Govardhan Hill to make into special milk. And that milk she would make into sweets. And if she made nice milk sweets, Krishna would stop stealing from other people's houses. And he would avoid his getting a bad reputation as a thief. Although Krishna's Renchor, he's famous, for leaving and stealing and so many things. Makanchor. But the point is that we are learning the science of how to please Krishna. We want to see Krishna pleased. You know the story, I won't tell the whole one, but of, Krishna, has a headache. And what will cure the headache is the dust from Krishna's lotus feet. So actually, Narada Muni was asking, why are the gopis so special? You've got great yogis and big pandits, and what's so special? They're just village girls. I mean, it's a test question. So Krishna said, you go to the yogi, you go to the jnani, and you go to my gopis, and you tell them that I have a headache. And the only thing that will cure me is the dust from your feet. So they go to the jnani and, what, the dust from my feet? Well, I'm not going to put that on Krishna's head. I'll go to hell. Forget it. I'm not doing it. So then they go to a yogi. And you say, break him out of his staring at the tip of his nose with half closed eyes and, So they break him out of his trance. Krishna has a headache. We need the dust. No way. Never. I'll go to hell. So then they go to gopis before he can even get a word out of his mouth. Narada Muni, before he can even ask the question about the dust, gopis say, how is Krishna? How is our Krishna? How is our Govinda? They say, well, he has a headache. What? What do we do? Oh, he needs the dust from your feet. Immediately they begin collecting. So Narada says, aren't you worried that the dust from your feet? You'll go to hell on Krishna's head? Say, we don't care. We just want to see Krishna's headache gone. So this is the mood of Vrindavan. Remind me when we're done that I can tell a joke, a local joke. But the point is that this is the mercy. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Namo Mahabhadanaya, the greatest of devotees, greatest, most merciful of incarnations. He can also be considered, he's the incarnation of a devotee. But what is that great gift that he's giving? He's giving this how to become a devotee, how to gain Krishna prema, genuine love of Krishna. And that begins with the understanding that, oh, God, give me this, God, give me that. You know, Prabhupada said Krishna's providing everything. I want to get back to some stories. What is the time? Do we have a clock anywhere? We're beyond time? Okay, now how do you know it's 7:30?
Because I can see it there.
I trust you. Don't worry. That wasn't a trust question. But I can't see what time it is. And I don't want to go on too long. Is that set permanently? Is it going to go off and on? Excellent. Thank you, sir. And how long should I? Oh, Maharaj, as long as you want. I appreciate that. We all know that I'm up against a greater force than me, and that's prasadam. So what is our? Tell me what is our schedule?
As long as you want.
Yeah, exactly. I knew it was coming. Thank you very much. It was very kind of you. No, I appreciate it. I'm not being sarcastic.
But you're
But
offsetting the nice Thanksgiving, so everybody is off tomorrow. So
yeah. They're all going to be mad at you for saying that. What do we usually do? What is the norm? Tell me the truth.
There's no norm, but if an hour is pretty good.
All right, figure we've already burned up 20 minutes. So we won't go that long and we'll take some questions. Okay, thanks. So, well, let me tell a story about Prabhupada. Prabhupada was humility personified. I just want to set the ground first. I had this personal experience. Prabhupada was at the Detroit Temple, at the Detroit airport. And if you've seen on film, but when Prabhupada was in an airport, coming or going, it was just a mystical scene. There were, so this was at least 250, 300 devotees, at least. And, 10 madungas, 20 pairs of kartals, Vishnujan Swami leading kirtan, devotees distributing books, throwing flower petals, sprinkling rose water, distributing trays of cookies. Just completely took over the airport. Now, it was a hub shape, so there were a bunch of gates, and everybody's waiting in the center there. And the Detroit businessmen are trying to get on their next flight. They're trying to, wherever they're going, Chicago or who knows where, New York or whatever. And the devotees had, they're offering full dandavats, they're chanting the whole, so they couldn't get through. They're trying to get past the devotees, and the devotees are thinking, this meat-eating materialist. And so, the businessmen are pushing, and brahmacharis are pushing back. It was about to blow. Somebody was going to haul off and whack somebody. Welcome to American Kali Yuga, So Rupanuga trying to avoid that flashpoint, stood up, on one of the seats and said, "All ISKCON devotees, please clear the airport." Nobody moved. Not a single person, except Prabhupada. Prabhupada picked up his little bag and got, no, not you, Prabhupada. So, Prabhupada was here. He was thinking, I'm an ISKCON devotee. My leader's making an announcement. Prabhupada immediately followed. Nobody else. But so there's many. There was a man, and it's a long story, but the point is that, well, actually, he was a Christian. He was an Indian, but from Goa, and he was a Christian. Because there's many things we can learn from the Christians. We can use humility. We can learn charity. There's so many things we can learn from them, the genuine, as they can learn from us. So but this man said to he was a professor. I was in Philadelphia, and Rabindra Sarup brought him. Rabindra was going to Temple University, and he invited this Indian, who was a professor of religions, but he turned out to be a Christian, and he's and not a very advanced one. And he said to Srila Prabhupada, "I see that you're a Vaishnava." He said, "But I am a Christian, and the question is, what are you doing? What is Krishna doing? He's an adulterer. He's dancing with other men's wives. He's immoral." It was his first thing out of his mouth. It was a challenge and an offense. So Prabhupada said to him, "Oh, I see that you're wearing a ring. I see that you're married. The real question, Krishna is the only Purusha, and everyone else is Prakriti. Krishna is the only enjoyer, and everyone else is meant to be enjoyed. So the real question, sir, is not what is Krishna doing dancing with the gopis. The real question is, what are you doing with one of Krishna's gopis?" And the man was shocked, because he thought, well, here's this simple sannyasi, I'll slap him around with a moral code, and Prabhupada immediately reversed the tables and called him immoral. Why are you stealing Krishna's energy? Why are you, exploiting one of Krishna's devotees? Everyone's a devotee of Krishna. And the man became so angry, he started swearing. So it was a whole scene, big Brahmananda. Finally, Brahmananda said, "I think you better leave, sir." Gave him the heave-ho. I don't advocate. It was time, place, and circumstance. But the point is, after the man, had left, the devotee said, "What will happen to him? He used 4-letter words against a pure devotee of Krishna, a saintly sadhu. What will happen to him?" And the devotees were sitting in a small circle, and they offered, will he wander like Ashwatthama in the Himalayas? Will he have to drink boiling ghee? They were offering it. So everybody offered their horrendous remedy that this man would have to follow. When it came to Prabhupada, he was the last one to answer. Prabhupada said, well, we could forgive him. Nobody had thought of that. But Prabhupada thought we could forgive him. And Prabhupada actually said, I must have offended him in a previous life. Now he's come to take his revenge. I offended him now, and that's how Prabhupada saw it, So in so many ways, Prabhupada was humility personified. But he has to do his duty as a teacher. Sometime as a teacher, you have to assert yourself. Like the first thing, when Arjuna surrendered, Krishna called him a fool. First thing he said, you're lamenting for things that are not worthy of lamentation. A wise person doesn't lament for that which is temporary. So immediately, So Prabhupada was in Calcutta, and there was he was Tarun Kanti Ghosh was his name. His great grandfather had been a disciple of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He came in a Vaishnava line. But he'd been to see a yogi who had manifest by Prapti Siddhi, zoop, had made an apple. And the Tarun Kanti Ghosh was so impressed. Prabhupada said, Tarun Kanti Ghosh said, he was just in a gamsha, nothing up his sleeve, no sleight of hand. You get these guys who, they make a little ash or they make a little, whatever it is, a little gold jewel. So this man had made a nice apple. So he was impressed, and he kept saying to Prabhupada, there was no apple, and he made an apple, and then nothing up his sleeve. He was in a gamsha, and this apple. And he couldn't think or hear or see beyond that point. So, although he was humility personified to make his point and help Tarun Kanti Ghosh get beyond this, Prabhupada said, I came to America with nothing. Actually, we hear that Prabhupada had 40 rupees. But in those days, you couldn't convert rupees. You could go to Thomas Cook or whatever it is, American Express. They wouldn't take Indian rupees. So the only money Prabhupada had, he had $20 from the set of Bhagavatams that he sold to the captain of the Jaladuta. And he had a sack of coins that he could use to get to himself to Butler, Pennsylvania. That was it. So Prabhupada said, I came and with nothing. I had a pair of kartals, and I sat down in Tompkins Square Park or Washington Park, and I began to chant. All I had was the order of my spiritual master and the holy name. And he said, I began to chant, and some devotees came. And after some devotees, some festivals came. And after festivals, so many books. And after books, so many deities. And then, and so many temples. And then Prabhupada said, and in every temple, there are so many apples. Apple chutney, apple halava, apple. So this guy makes one apple and, he must be Bhagavan, Well, what about Prabhupada's mystic power of opening? You can go anywhere in the world, practically speaking. And there's a farm or a school or a ashram or a Govinda's restaurant. So it's just an amazing thing that if you think about it for a moment. So I'll tell another short story. Tamal Krishnamaj told me this one. Prabhupada was a person. He was a real, genuine, loving, intelligent, perceptive person. I was on a morning walk with Prabhupada in Chicago. And I know a little bit about gardening, not much, but I know enough to, this is eggplant, this is chili, that's tomato. Okay, subji. I can function. So we were on a morning walk in Chicago, and Prabhupada swung his cane, and he said, "What is this?" I said, "Well, Prabhupada, that's an azalea." I said, "It's a nice flower, but it has no fragrance." Prabhupada said, "A flower without fragrance is a handsome man with no good qualities." So I think it comes from Chanakya Pandit. So Prabhupada walked a little further and said, "What is this?" I said, "Prabhupada, that's holly. It makes a berry, birds eat it, and they use it for decoration on the holidays." Okay. Prabhupada walked a little further, swung his cane, said, "What is this?" I said, "Prabhupada, that's a weed. It's useless." Prabhupada stopped, put his cane down, said, "No, you're useless," which was the accurate analysis, of course. So when Prabhupada said, everything has a purpose. Krishna doesn't waste. Either it's a fuel, or it's a can be made into a fabric, or it's medicinal, or it has fruit or flower. Krishna doesn't waste. Prabhupada said the plant's not useless. You're useless because you don't know the purpose. It's got a purpose. You just don't know it. It's not the plant's fault. So that was, and I'll tell you another time Prabhupada and now analyzed my character. I was a young temple president, and young men in the room, let that be a lesson to you. I was once young. Yeah, and it's amazing how fast it goes. You'll be old before you know it. I was thinking of another joke. Well, anyway, I'll save that for some other time. So so we're on a morning walk. This was in Detroit. And to tell you the truth, I was fishing for a compliment. And I thought, I'll ask Prabhupada, what does it mean to be one of your temple presidents? Don't play mental games with your spiritual master. You will lose. And what is the use? But anyway, I was young and foolish. Now I'm old and foolish, but at least. So I asked Prabhupada, what does it mean to be one of your temple presidents? And I thought he would say, oh, you're one of my generals on the front line. You're one of the captains in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission, So I thought, I don't know what else. Thank you very much for, whatever I was thinking. I was fishing for a compliment, as they say. So I said to Prabhupada, what does it mean to be one of your temple presidents? And he stopped, planted his cane, sized me up, literally looked me up from head to toe, and said, it means if anything goes wrong, it's your fault. Which is what it means to be in charge, actually. It was quite accurate, and it's true. So I thought, well, there you go. Careful what you ask for. But it was good advice. It was very good advice. So, Prabhupada and Tamal Krishna Maharaj. So, but that was my point. Prabhupada was a person. He was real. And he was a pure devotee of Krishna. And not only was he saying, this is what it means to be this is what it looks like to be Krishna conscious. He was saying, and you can too. Come on. Just step up. It's not that hard, really. It just means being a human being, So, anyway. Prabhupada used to take prasadam. Kamal Krishna Maharaj told me this personally. Prabhupada used to take prasadam after the Sunday feast talk. He'd give the Sunday lecture. And then there was a little side room at the old LA temple. And Prabhupada would take prasadam with the senior devotees. And there was always some temple. There were no sannyasis in those days. Kirtananda was the only sannyasi. But devotees would take prasadam with us, visiting temple presidents with Prabhupada. So Prabhupada was sitting on a little raised seat, devotees were sitting in a circle. And Prabhupada would take a little bit of whatever the Sunday feast was, he'd sample it. So he had a gulab jamun that was on his plate, and Prabhupada took a bite out of it, put it back on his plate. And then he distributed the different prasadam off his plate. And he gave Tamal Krishna Maharaj that gulab jamun he'd taken a bite out of. And he put it on Tamal's plate. And Tamal was just relishing. He was, in those days, we'd take one plate at the speed of the mind, at the other plate at the, about the third or fourth plate, you begin to notice distinctions in flavors and shapes, We used to take a lot of prasadam, in those days. So Tamal transferred it to one plate, he transferred it to another plate, and he was savoring it. Now, Prabhupada was sitting here, Tamal was sitting here, and a devotee named Jai Gopal was sitting here. Now, Jai Gopal was a famous prasadam thief. I was a skinny little brahmachari, and I used to lock up the Mahaprasadam. That was my assignment from all the different offerings, we'd lock it in a cabinet like this, and then we'd take it out at breakfast time and distribute it to all the devotees. And I was the only one who had the key. So no other, anyone to blame it on. They started opening the cabinet in the morning. I would open it up, and it'd be empty. All the prasadam would be eaten. It was gone. The dishes were back empty, nice and clean. Whoever was doing it was Brahminical, at least, put everything back. But the cupboard was empty, and I'm the only one with the key. I mean, let me tell you, there was some heavy pressure on me that, fess up. I had nobody else to blame. I was, Finally, later on, he became a GBC and a BBT trustee. It's one of the heroes, Karandar Prabhu, is one of the real heroes of our starting the Krishna consciousness movement. So he spent the night in the prasadam room where it was locked up, and he caught Jai Gopal. How was Jai Gopal breaking into the cabinet? It's locked, right? He would knock the pins out of the hinges and take the whole locked cabinet doors off. It's pretty intelligent when you think about it, highly motivated. And then, I think he had some cohort with him or co-conspirator, and they would, So Prabhupada's sitting here on a little bit of a raised seat. Tamal Krishna Maharaj is sitting here. He was a brahmachari in those days. And Jai Gopal's sitting here. Now, Tamal said that he was looking at his gulab jamun, and then he was looking at Srila Prabhupada. He was meditating on Prabhupada's ear. And he was thinking how Prabhupada's ear is shaped like Buddha's. There's different symptoms of a long or auspicious bodily symptoms. You have that nice Buddha out here. He's got that nice long ears. So he was looking at Prabhupada's ear. And then he was thinking how Prabhupada's ear is like a transcendental radar dish tuned to Shabda Brahman, how it's catching the sounds of So he was lost in reverie thinking about Prabhupada's ear. So while he was distracted, Jai Gopal reached over, grabbed the gulab jamun, and popped the whole thing in his mouth. Now, we were passionate in those days. Tamal grabbed it right in front. Prabhupada's sitting right here. And he was going to whack him. But he had the wherewithal. He said, Prabhupada, can I hit him? Prabhupada said, what did he do? Tamal said, he stole my gulab jamun. Prabhupada said, Vaikuntha qualification. Prabhupada said there's two types of devotees. Devotees who distribute prasadam and devotees who steal prasadam. Prabhupada said, and they're both transcendental. So, let me think. I'll tell one more story about Prabhupada. How about this? How about somebody ask me a question and I'll think of a Prabhupada story? Anybody have a question? Something about... All right, hey, I think I'll look it up. I'll look one up. And then we'll stop. That will give you a chance. Oh, very good. That will give you a chance to think about some questions. What's that kid got? No, what's he got? I'm just curious. Oh, he's got some holder. Okay, hang on. Hang on a minute. Let's do this. Right on time. Hold on. What does that kid want? Do you know? Somebody should find out what he wants. Well, that's interesting. I'll tell you a few of Prabhupada's jokes. He's in London. Malati Devi told me this. You know, people would ask Prabhupada all the time, can you see God? Now, there's many ways Prabhupada answered this. Can you see God? Prabhupada would say, that's not the question. The question is, why can't you see God? The mystic power of God is everywhere. Prabhupada was in San Diego, and he had a nice big tangerine. And somebody gave it to him, Prabhupada peeled it, and then he was distributing the individual sections of the tangerine. And then Prabhupada held it up and said, how can they say there's no God? Prabhupada said it comes so nicely packaged. And you think about it. It's got a biodegradable wrapper. You know, you can slice it up. You can put it in halava. You can make marmalade out of it. You can. It's biodegradable. We'll be buried under plastic. You know, it'll be here 30 years from now. You got to get a blowtorch to open the package from Amazon. You know, there's a plastic. But so it comes nicely. You know, it's got individual servings, individual sections. You don't want to finish the whole thing. You can share it. You can put it in the fridge. Think about how nicely it's packaged. And there's seeds inside that will make will make another tree, multiple trees that will each make hundreds of fruits. Suppose I had a car dealership and I only had 2 cars. I had 2 Mercedes. Can I put them in a garage, come back 9 months later and there's a baby Mercedes? You start my own dealership, just breed No. But Krishna, embedded within the thing is another seed that makes multiple trees. So Prabhupada said, how can you say there's no God? The mystic power of God is all around us. If I were to float this glass of water, suppose you're sitting here and you see Swamiji, Om, and if it were to float up, come over to my mouth, I lean, and it poured into my mouth. You'd be impressed. I mean, I'd be impressed. It's not a bad. I mean, it's a nice closet, whatever. But think about this, and Govardhan's heard this example many times, but it's quite mystical when you think about it. Sariputta Prabhu, one of the founding members of the Bhaktivedanta Institute, who had a double PhD, one in statistics and the other in theoretical physics. He's a qualified man in this field. So it rained a 1/16 of an inch in San Diego County. It's true. Rained 1/16 of an inch. So Sariputta Prabhu figured out, you can look it up, you can find the square miles for San Diego County. I mean, it arranged Imperial County, LA County, Orange County, San Bernardino. Fine, let's be conservative. Let's just take San Diego County. Now, if you know the, whatever you call the square miles, what the mileage of the thing is, the surface area, then you can figure out how much water it takes for cover it 1/16 of an inch. And if you figure out how much water it takes, how many gallons it is, there's a fixed weight for a gallon of water. Okay, there's heavy water, fine, just work with me. I think it's 9 to 12 pounds is the weight. You can Google it, how much a gallon of water makes. So if you know the surface area, if you know the amount of rain, you can figure out how many gallons. The gallons have a certain weight. So just to cover just San Diego County, not all of Southern California, it is billions and billions, with a B, tons of water. And Krishna is just floating it in the sky. I float this glass of water. Oh, he must be Bhagavan. But what about Krishna's mystic power floating billions of tons of water in the sky? And one of the examples of Krishna being Parameshwara is the sun shines on the ocean, the water evaporates. In the form of a cloud, it bumps up against the mountains, it pounds on the mountains, it brings all the nutrients down, fertilizes and waters all the crops, all the fruited plain of America, and then it drops all the waste, picks up all the waste, and drops it at the bottom of the ocean. And it just goes on perpetually. Anybody here ever get a bill from Varuna or Agni Dev or, Indra? What happens if you don't pay your water bill? What happens? Oh, man, they shut it off. I think you get a 1 month, maybe they give you a notice. In the old days, we really had no money in ISKCON. We used to pay our utility bill with rolled quarters. That's all whatever we could gather together on the last possible day. So those were the days, but it kept us humble. So the point is that the mystic power of God is all around us. So when they would ask Prabhupada, can you see God? Prabhupada would often say, that's not the question. The question is, why can't you see God? And the reason is you have a speck in your eye, like a cataract, you can't see. You got false ego, pride, envy, so many lust, anger, greed. That's why you can't see God. So, but to bring a sharp point on it, Malati Devi told me, Prabhupada's in London. Who here has been to the London Temple, Bhaktivedanta Manor? Not not Soho, but out in the Manor. Okay, so the temple room is long and thin, and you've got beautiful Radha Gokulananda here, Prabhupada's Vyasasan here. It's important to lay out Prabhupada's Vyasasan here, Radha Gokulananda, the deities, on this end. And a man stands up in the middle and says, "Can you see God?" Prabhupada said, "Yes, but you're standing in the way. Sit down." So, the mystic power of God is all around us, but we've got to open our eyes. We have to have the eyes to see. We have to remove the cataract of the speck of our eyes. So this is what we're doing. It is a process. It works. There's a process for distilling water. There's a process for getting unalloyed, metal. When Prabhupada arrived in Boston Harbor and saw all the lobster soup, so many things, and he took a quick tour of Boston in so many bars and brothels and places selling lobster soup. So Prabhupada was wondering, how will these people ever take to Krishna consciousness? And he'd been advised by Ban Maharaj, oh, you don't know how to eat with a knife and a fork, and I'll show you how. When Prabhupada and Sridhar Maharaj, his godbrother, who had stayed in his house, they were a preaching team. They had a brahmachari who led the kirtan. Ban Maharaj gave the katha. Prabhupada was the householder, businessman. He would invite his friends and they would raise money for Gaudiya Math. So one led the bhajan, one gave the katha, and Prabhupada was the collector. I heard Prabhupada say this. So his good friend Sridhar Maharaj. Sridhar Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada greeted Ban Maharaj and the other Gaudiya Math when they got off the boat. When they came back, they weren't able to do anything really of any significance and ate up so much money of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. But anyway, they came back. And when they came off the gangplank, I heard Prabhupada say this, when they came off the ship, because they came back by ship, the failed Gaudiya Math led by Ban Maharaj, when they got off, they were in British, bowler hat and suit and tie. I don't know, bow tie or tie, but they were in Western dress. And Prabhupada said, we have gone to change them, but they have changed us. But Prabhupada, would not bend. So the point is, after seeing the lobster soup and the brothels and the, what do you call it, payday loan shops, and just on the, you can imagine the scene there on the wharf. Prabhupada was wondering, maybe they were right. Prabhupada said, if they knew what I was coming to teach, the four regular principles, they would have told me, get on the boat and go back. So, Prabhupada was thinking, well, what do I do, Krishna? That's a wonderful poem, make me dance, make me dance, make me dance. So Prabhupada was praying to Krishna, what do I do? And do I need to water things down and change everything? And, or do I just stick to my guns? What to do? And Prabhupada said, as he was thinking like that, the fog cleared and he saw there was a warehouse, a big warehouse. And the sign came out of the fog, unalloyed steel. And Prabhupada took it as a sign from Krishna that we don't need to, there will always be a market. Prabhupada said, you sell pure spices, you sell pure ghee, you sell pure gold. There'll always be a market for it. So we're not watering things down. So that's what I wanted to say, that bhakti is a process, and it's been given to us, it's been exemplified by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and our previous acharyas have brought it to us, and all we have to do is practice it. It works, and we will develop genuine love of God and all good qualities. How will you know a Vaishnav? He'll be a perfect gentleman. So we can end there. And does anybody have any question? And I'll tell you how this works, because I've been doing it for years. Everyone in this room is thinking, oh, the person next to me will ask a question. Now, you can do the math. You don't have to have a PhD in statistics. If everyone is in the room is thinking the person next to me will ask a question, what happens? Nobody asks it. But everybody's got questions. And all it takes is one person to break the logjam, one brave soul. Hey, Swamiji. And off we go. So do we have a brave soul to ask one question? Don't be shy. You'll still get prashadam.
I'll ask a question.
Acha, thank you.
I was, this morning actually, I was just going about my business and I got a knock on the door. And it was the Easter Harvest Witness, going around.
Yeah. I offer my respects to them.
Yeah, I had this wonderful conversation with them. It was just really beautiful, but I kind of stemming just to speak a little bit about the root of where my question's coming from.
Okay.
I had my question essentially is, did Srila Prabhupada ever talk about collaborating with different religious groups for preaching purposes? And I remember hearing a Prabhupada memory where in Canada, I believe, there was a temple that was going to be bought, but the person who they were going to buy it from, they wanted the whole temple just to be destroyed because they didn't want it to.
Yeah, there was a Jewish synagogue, and they didn't want it to.
Yeah, and then I think Prabhupada wanted, let's keep Jesus here. We'll have.
Well, I'll tell you the truth. It depended on the audience, time, place, and circumstance. But Prabhupada was not so big on, let's all love each other, and you're okay, I'm okay. Prabhupada gave us the measure. He said, what process works best for you? He said, if you develop, what is the goal of the thing? The goal of the thing is to develop love of God. If you're developing love of God, whatever process works for you. Like Prabhupada spoke at a Catholic seminary in Australia, and they say, what do you think? They asked Prabhupada, what do you think of Jesus Christ? Prabhupada said, Jesus Christ is our guru. We follow him. And Jesus was pretty heavy, let me tell you the truth. But the point is that, do you actually follow? The Prabhupada said the problem is you don't follow. Prabhupada was asked by a priest one time, he met him on the plane, and he said, you're making young Western American boys and girls are becoming your followers. They were our boys. They were coming to our tent, but we never see their face. And now they've become completely devoted. He said, what did we do wrong? Prabhupada responded by saying, what didn't you do? I was a altar boy, and the priest used to chastise me for mixing too much water in the wine at the what do you call it, a communion or whatever it is, he used to give me the sauce. So Prabhupada would be a Christian, actually follow. I was in my householder days, we had a business, and I was in Qatar, which is a little spit that sticks off Saudi Arabia, so we were in Western dress. It's a Muslim country. We were doing business there, and we were cooking for ourselves. So there's a little like a super at a market, a green grocer across the corner. He's a Muslim guy, and we're there every day buying some vegetables or a little whatever it may be for cooking, little rice, little atar, whatever. And we became friendly. He's seeing us every day. He was a nice man. So the day we were leaving the next day, I said, you're not going to see us anymore. And I said, we're going to our holy city. We're going to Vrindavan, our holy city in India. And the man said, Haji, whatever on the counter you take for free, whatever we put on the counter, he took, he gave us, he thought, well, you're going on pilgrimage to a holy city. It wasn't Mecca. But he could understand the principle. He was a nice, pious man. So it depends if you're actually developing love of God and not just a cheater or an excuse. But at the same time, Prabhupada was, it is a fact. What does God look like? They don't know. What does God do all day long? When Rupa Goswami writes, one of the cowherd boys' games, they have there's a list by Rupa Goswami. It's 108 different games that the cowherd boys play. One of them is that one cowherd boy would throw a rock, and if the other cowherd boy could hit that rock, throw another rock and hit it, then the one who threw the first rock had to carry the other boy on his back. So they had all kinds of, they're active. I was thinking, what does God look like? What does he do? I don't like harp music. I mean, some people may like it, but I can't play harp all day long. I mean, I'll go nuts. So what do you do in the kingdom of God? Say, can I open a phone book and say, John Krasinski, love him? Well, wait a minute. What's he look like? What's he do? Maybe he's got bad breath. I mean, I don't know how I'm going to love him. You got to know something if you want to love them. So there's Prabhupada's example, which you can have a pocket dictionary or you can have the unabridged Oxford dictionary. You'll have the same words, but on one word you'll have pages and pages in the Oxford unabridged. And in your little pocket dictionary, you got a couple of words. So both are true, but one is much deeper and richer. As a sidelight, if you look up the synonyms for the word happiness, it's about 2 pages. If you look up the synonyms, anyway, whatever, you'll understand. If you look up the synonyms for suffering, it's about 8 pages. Now, language is an expression of the human being's experience. Like the Eskimos have 15 words for snow, because that's something I'm sure that if I'm living in Saudi Arabia, I got a bunch of different words for sand. So if you're looking at the English language, I'm sure it's true in other languages too, but if you're looking, what is the experience they're trying to express? Here's a thought exercise for you. If the what I'm trying to do is explain human experience, and if there's 3 pages on happiness and 12 pages of synonyms for suffering, what does that mean the predominant human experience is? Huh? Suffering. There's no question about it, you know. So what do they actually know? We should not, I'm okay, you're okay. We should offer respect. We should learn what we can learn. But you've got to, I mean, the fact of the matter is that we have the richest, deepest understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. God is an old man with a beard and not in a very good mood. He's smiting and smoting and throwing thunderbolts. I mean, you know, I wouldn't want to meet him in a bad mood. But Brahma Samhita says, Govindam Adi Purisham, what is it? Purana Purisham Navayovanam Cha. That even though he's the original person, Adi Purisham, Purana Purisham, the oldest person, Navayovanam. He's the fresh youth. How can the source of all life and all beauty be a wrinkled up old man? Does that make any sense to you? How can the source of all beauty and all life not be beautiful and full of life? Share with me the seamless logic there. So I'll end with it. So that's my answer to that one. That you know, things are nuanced. Things are not. You can't club them over the head. You can't be holier than thou. In a genuine, like I say, we can learn humility. We can learn so many things. Charity from the Christians. Okay, we'll end with a joke, and it's along this theme. The Pope. It's a joke. Don't get upset. The Pope holds an ecumenical council, and he invites religious leaders from around the world. And he invites a Brajbasi, a nice Vrindavan Basi, and initiated nice devotee, follower of Mahaprabhu. So everyone's making their presentation, and the Brajbasi says, I pray to God, but what are you doing for God? And, God is not an old man with a beard, all that stuff, right? And the priest is and the Pope is very impressed. So the Pope says, come back to my quarters. I'd like to talk more. I'd like to buy a set of Bhagavatams. So they go back and they meet with the Pope. And the Pope, the Brajbasi notices that there's a gold phone. The Pope has a gold phone. So the Brajbasi says, hey, what's with the gold phone? What's it for? And the Pope says, that's my direct line to God. He said, you want to use it? You got any problems, got any questions? But don't talk long. It's super expensive. But go ahead. So the Brajbasi picks up the phone. And he doesn't want anything. God give me this, God give me that. He just offers Govinda Mari Pusham Namo Brahmanara Zivaya. He offers some nice prayers and says, and he's done. So the Pope says, thank you very much. It was only 10 minutes, but it's going to cost $15,000. But don't worry, I'll just sell a ring and we'll cover it. Don't worry about it. Okay. So then sometime later, the Pope is visiting India. And he wants to go see his Brajbasi friend. So he goes to Vrindavan and he sees his friend. And he notices that his Vrindavan friend also has a gold phone. And he says, and Brajbasi says, yeah, I saw yours, so I had one put in too. You want to use it? Oh, the Pope says, I got so many issues, I got so many problems, this, that, And then when he puts the phone down, it's been 45 minutes. Thinks, my God, that's going to be $45,000. What to do? He said, don't worry, I'll sell another ring, I'll cover it. So the Brajbasi says, no. It was only $10. What? The Brajbasi says, in Vrindavan, it's a local call. Ha, 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 ha. So the point point is that we know Krishna, and we shouldn't be embarrassed about that. We should not club people over the head or ladle them with guilt. But the fact is that Srimad Bhagavatam is the apex of truth, and we shouldn't back away from it, and we shouldn't be afraid of standing strong. Okay, we can end there. Thank you for sitting so patiently. So what happens now? Don't look at me. I'm a guest.
I would like if you could like sing something, like a small kid.
Nah, that's done already. You can sing. You guys can sing. He can sing. I'm losing my voice, and I've already been singing for so long.
Yeah, we can have a little bit of cake maybe.
Yeah.
Can I get you something to drink? I actually made some.
No, but here's the thing. At an Indian wedding, the bride is thinking, he looks like Lord Ram. The groom is thinking, she's as beautiful as Sita. The mother is thinking, I hope they have noble children. The father is thinking, I hope he can make money and take good care of her. What is everyone else thinking? When do we eat? I know my audience. So, your house is sanctified, shanti, shanti, shanti. They want to take prasadam, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. While you're setting up prasadam, we can have a really short kirtan. I can sing something. But start, if you don't mind, Mataji, start the process, because it's late and they're hungry. And the babies are going nuts. Prabhupada says sannyasis can tolerate anything but the crying of a baby. It's not easy. Take that as a lesson, Mataji. And for the future speaker. The kids are suffering, the audience is distracted, and the speaker's trying to stay on track. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Charini Nivasesa Sunyavari Vaskachari Satarini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Charini Nivasesa Sunyavari Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Charini Nivasesa Sunyavari Vaskachade Satarini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Charini Visesha Onnavadi Satsakari Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gauravatanda Krishna Chaitanya Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, oh, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, oh Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Premanandi.
HH Badrinarayan Swami Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Yay!